Right, hi, my name's Beth. I'm making this video because this is the first video I've ever made, actually, and I'm doing it because I have stuff to say, and I want to share with whoever I can about stuff that I'm interested in and what I think more people should be talking about. So, for this video, I found this amazing article which I've read like a huge number of my friends now, and they've all sort of burst into tears and gone, "Oh my God, this is the perfect moment. I need to be hearing this and listening to this." And it made me think that, you know, if just a small number of my friends want to know this stuff and talk about this stuff, then they're probably not the only people. So I got the article from this amazing magazine called Happinez, and it's basically about personal crisis and how it helps us grow, basically. And the other reason I'm also making this video is because I'm terrified of reading out loud to people. So here we go. Let's see how I go. So forgive me if I stumble, but here I'm going to go. So a personal crisis taught American author Elizabeth Lesser that love is an active choice. Be the love you want to see in the world, she says, and accept every person's individuality. She's not a fan as such of personal crisis, but Elizabeth Lesser, 1953, does regard them as excellent opportunities for growth. In her book, Broken Open, 2004, she tries to explain why people emerge stronger from difficult times in their lives and why, in hindsight, they regard them as a tremendous gift. Lesser has been noticing this paradox, not only in her personal life but also in her work. She began her career as a midwife. In 1977, she became one of the founders of the Omega Institute, a renowned retreat and conference centre offering workshops in areas like health, psychology, art and spirituality. She works there as an advisor. She still works there as an advisor. She is one of Oprah Winfrey's cornerstones, regularly contributing to her show. A few years ago, a crisis presented itself in Lesser's life. Her sister Maggie's rare form of cancer came back after a 7-year remission. The only thing that could possibly save her was a stem cell transplant, and one of Maggie's 3 sisters. And of Maggie's 3 sisters, Elizabeth turned out to be the most suitable donor, from a medical point of view, that is, because the two had pretty much grown apart emotionally. Apparently, it was the time for a period of growth. Afterwards, Elizabeth described the events in her wise, moving, and often humorous book, Marrow, A Love Story, 2016. Why are personal crises so useful? Wonderful sometimes can be just as useful, you know, Elizabeth laughs. It's not like the more misery you encounter, the wiser you get, because you might see a crisis, something that ruins your sense of security and brings you unwanted change, as a kind of wake-up call. It's an opportunity to discover your own hidden strength and become more yourself that way. It's a choice. If you want to make use of a crisis, don't fight it. That's usually counterproductive anyway. When times are rough, try to realise that it's all part of life and it happens to all of us, and try to figure out how you can benefit from it. When did you realise that your sister's illness might be a useful crisis? Maggie was dying. She didn't stand a chance unless she could have a bone marrow transplant real soon. The test showed that I was the perfect donor. We had a 100% match, which is rare. I read all the information and it turned out a transplant like that is not without risk. My cells could attack hers. Her cells might reject mine. In either case, Maggie would die. It struck me as an interesting metaphor because attack and rejection were the very characteristics of our relationship, besides sisterly love. We had been each other's competitors. We hadn't always made room for each other. We had been unkind. What if we went back in time, explained ourselves, and apologised for the mistakes we'd made? It might take us to that open space which Persian poet Rumi wrote about. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Such an amazing quote. It seemed to me the perfect preparation for the moment that my cells would be going into her body. Having this talk might even increase the chances of success, because our mental states play a big role too. Maggie was up for it. She tried every available method because her life was at stake. She got chemotherapy, she prepared for a bone marrow transplant. Why not try this too? We set up an appointment with a psychotherapist she knew and started with what we came to call our soul marrow transplant. We were able to heal wounds from the past by offering our true selves to each other. What is that, your true self? Something that has become hidden deep inside of us. As a midwife, I got to see this from up close, how different every birth is. Some babies are very serene, others come out bawling, others are crumpled up, but they all had one thing in common, a pure, unique and good self. That is who you are, and that essence is what you have to hold on to. But how? Our true selves get muddled up as we grow up, as we adjust to the world. Your parents fail to acknowledge who you really are. My parents were just like a lot of parents of their generation. Following your heart was a luxury to them. They didn't even want to think about it. They lived their lives the way everyone was supposed to back then. My sisters and I were supposed to be decent girls, get married, and become model citizens. My parents refused to be involved with religion and spirituality. The New Yorker magazine was their Bible. But I never stopped following my heart, which meant that I had to break away from some elements of my education in order to find true self. I'm sure I'm not the only one. To me, life is a journey to become your most authentic self, a goal you will probably never quite achieve, but you can shed more and more bad advice and unreasonable expectations of others as you go along. Give yourself time to do this by seeking out the silence every day and listening to what it has to tell you. Can you name a few things that help you on this journey? I use meditation to be able to listen to my own heart. It filters out the confusion and it silences the voices in my head that tell me what I'm supposed to do. I get peace of mind. I look after my mental health by meditating regularly. But that's not enough. If your body isn't healthy, it's harder to find your true destination. So looking after my body is definitely a part of my sacred spiritual practice. Then there's my emotional life, which I get in order through psychotherapy. Sometimes it's useful to sit down with a psychotherapist and figure out where your obstacles and struggles are coming from. And finally, you'll have to find a way to get in touch with your soul. How did you and Maggie define the soul? I can't give you a clear-cut definition. All I can say is the soul is a mystery. It's too big to comprehend for us humans. The soul is immeasurable, eternal and mysterious. In all the years I've spent thinking about it so far, asking the questions like, what is eternal life, and where do I go after I die? I haven't found a lot of concrete answers, but I do know when I'm in touch with my soul, and if I have one, that means you have one too. All these souls are different. We should enjoy that individuality, safe in the knowledge that all of us are essentially one. I think of the soul as a kind of referee between the head and the heart. You said your renewed contact with your sister was at least as intense as the bone marrow transplant itself. Showing your true emotions is scary. I'm not the only one who feels that way. Most people put up a front because they're scared of being rejected, afraid of what people won't think they're worth afraid that people won't think they're worth loving. It's one of those freak human anomalies. Maggie and I saw a therapist a few times and discussed issues we never talked about before. Why had she not invited me to her house for years? Did I behave that way I did to our parents on that specific occasion? As it turned out, there was an explanation for every incident. It was almost shockingly easy to clear up our relationship. Why had we waited 50 years to do this? We both had a ton of assumptions that made no sense at all. Within a few hours, we cleaned up a lifelong misunderstandings about each other. Then it was easy to forgive each other for what had gone wrong. In Marrow, you quote Leela Watson, "If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." It was crucially important for us to talk as equals, not as a sick person and a healthy one. Obviously, I was confronted with myself during our therapy. Not everything I heard was pleasant. I'd made mistakes. I made Maggie feel bad about herself sometimes when we were little, but also later on as adults. It was good to hear it because once I knew what I did wrong, I could try to stop doing that in other relationships too. I learned that I'm a control freak. If there's a problem, I'm the first to say, "Don't worry, folks, I'll fix it." But by doing this, I'm robbing others of the chance to show their commitment. Maggie pointed this out to me during our sessions. "You were always so bossy. You took everything off my hands. I was the useless little sister." I realised I was still doing that. I can be intimidating, but I don't want that. I want to be who I am, but not at someone else's expense. So I need to work on that. I don't think I ever completely erased my controlling side, but at least I'm aware of it now, thanks to my sister's honesty, and thanks to my courage to listen to her. It was the same for Maggie. She heard things about herself that she hadn't been aware of and that she could work on. The year after the transplant, which sadly turned out to be her last, was the best year of her life, she said. She stopped keeping up appearances and became herself much more. My liberation was bound up with hers in yet another way, which was her great gift to me. She allowed me to be part of her dying process. We tend to leave the care of the dying to the professionals and hide it away in hospitals, but you can actually learn so much by breaking away from the rat race of daily life and taking time to look after someone you love without ego. With all your heart and soul, it's a unique experience, birth and death. They bring the mystery of the soul to the surface and make it almost tangible. In your book, you come to the conclusion that love is the uniting power that gives meaning to your life. Love is an active choice, you write. What do you mean by this? In my own country, the United States, it is a clear example right now of what happens when we lack love. We stop listening to each other. We no longer accept the differences between us. Instead of focusing on what unites us, we only see the differences, which we do that in the most unloving way. And history has shown again and again what happens when we lack love. When a lack of love poisons human relationships, war happens and genocides happen. I'm worried about that. When I say that love, in all its manifestations, is the most important thing in the world, I don't mean it in a happy, smiley, emojicon way. I mean it in a powerful, strong, muscled way. Love is setting your ego aside to make real contact with someone. What you need, who you are, tell me your life. Love is accepting every person's individuality, and it all starts with loving yourself. The more you love yourself in a good, non-narcissistic way, the more you have to give to others. You are here on earth to be yourself, so you'd better love yourself. Feeling self-love and love for others is much harder than feeling hatred. It is hard work. You can train your love muscles by starting small, with people in your direct surroundings. That's what I mean when I say that love is an active choice. Show your love to your husband, your wife, your kids, and then to people you meet at your kids' school and at work. Be the love you'd like to see in the world. Sometimes you'll mess up, naturally, but just do your best. Is that the most important lesson this crisis has taught you? Yeah. And also, you shouldn't wait too long to reveal your soul. You really don't need a crisis for that. Don't wait until it's almost too late, like my sister did. Do it now, with whoever you can. You'll discover that most people will embrace your initiative. I sometimes think we're a lot like teenagers at a school dance, everyone watching everyone else and waiting for the first person to hit the dance floor. But it can be so simple to make a relationship better and more profound. You could go up to someone and say, "Hey, we've been neighbours for a while now, but we hardly ever talk. I sometimes wonder if you like me at all. Maybe I've done something wrong." Most people would be surprised and say something like, "What a brave thing to do, coming up and asking me this." And then they'll tell the truth. No, nothing's wrong. Or, since you asked, when you did this the other day, I wasn't very pleased. A new world will open up after that. Trust me, the smallest step can change the world. So that was me reading aloud and reading you something that has really resonated with me. I'm sure there's things in there that have sort of sprung up for you. I definitely know that they have for me. I was going to read you one quote from it again that I just keep repeating to myself. It's the quote from Marrow, her book, which is quoted from a lady called Leela Watson. If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. And take whatever angle you want from that, but for me, it's that we're all on our own journey, and if it feels right, you help someone, and most of those times that will propel you into something different, and helping people and just loving people, just giving people love, just propels you forward. Right, and I did it. Yay!